Okay, the chain's now fitted. I've put it loosely round the two axles, got it onto the sprockets, and now I need to adjust the tension on the front axle. So that's these three screws at the front here. These will tension it up. And there we have it, ready for a test run once we've soldered on the cabling. So at this stage it's good to get to the cables. You can get in there easily without the body being in the way. So that's the next thing I'm going to do, just solder that top on. So soldering on the wires, well, we've got a little spot of solder already on the top there and a little spot on the cable. So that should be the red one, and then the black one. It doesn't actually matter which way round these go, because on the manual control you can turn the switch around. If it goes forward for backward and backward for forward. But it seems on the Fosworks controller it's better to have the red cable on the right hand side, and that should give you the correct direction for forward reverse on your handset. So now we can give it a test run. We've got the cabling on. I've got a manual controller already set up on this little switch panel, and I've plugged in the battery. So if I turn him over and connect in to the motor, make sure you get the red and black the right way round. Now there she goes. And while she's running, I'll give her a little oil round. Always makes quite a lot of difference when you put a spot of oil on. You can hear it's beginning to run that little bit smoother. So there we go, that's running okay, both directions. And then to make sure you can get the 32mm gauge set up, the back-to-back on that needs to be 28mm, and you need to be able to get a 6mm drill down in between the sprocket and the wheel so that you can achieve that dimension. And to change the gauge, you loosen off the grub screws in the wheels and move them in to 28mm back-to-back, and the two wheels will be pretty much one up against the bevel gear and the other up against this sprocket. So I've pulled the wheels in, so that's now on the smaller gauge, 28mm back to back. So we're happy with that. I'll disconnect the electrics. Put that to one side. The next job is fitting the detail parts on the side of the chassis. So these are 3D printed, they're left and right handed, so you've got to get them the right way around. They slot in at the front and they're secured with these 3 screw holes here. So we need to just clamp the little moulding in place, like so. And then I'm going to drill these 2 holes. Don't need to go very deep. And fit them using the little self-tapping screws. It's the advantage of being on the tray. Don't lose the screws, they're all there. And then I've got to drill the third one and then do the other side to match. With all the parts now in place on the chassis, this is actually complete and we can think about moving on to the body. Right, well the chassis is all done now, so we'll put that to one side and we'll move on with the body parts. So we've got the foot plate, the cab and the two bonnet sides. These all tab together, so they've got little holes where the tabs go through into the foot plate and then they're folded over on the bottom. But the tabs themselves, well these ones, we've taken some of the powder coating off. Sometimes the slots get powder coated and you can just clean them through with a needle file just to make sure that the tabs all go together. So before you actually assemble everything, make sure the bonnet sides fit the foot plate, the cab fits the foot plate, like so, and also the bonnet sides themselves go into the front of the cab. So they snap through. And the tabs on the front of the bonnet here need bending over at 90 degrees. The bonnet sides are interchangeable at this stage, so make sure you've got a good side and then bend the tabs at the front 90 degrees and make sure they're as tight as they can so the radiator goes up against the bonnet without leaving a gap. So straight tab through the cab and then the bent tab on the inside. Now when we put this one in, the bonnet sides become handed, so you've got to bend these a left hand and a right hand, like so. This all then goes down onto the foot plate and the tabs all snap home nicely. Right, this one's actually already assembled and you can see how the tabs have come through, and then I've bent them over with a pair of pliers just to get them nice and flat. And also the ones in here, I've bent those cab ones over and I've bent the tops over for the roof just to make sure they're following the right line. Now the tabs underneath the cab, those are a bit more difficult to get to and they don't bend right over. You can't get in with a pair of pliers, but you can fold them down with a big screwdriver. Just push them as far as they'll go. Make sure that there's no gap under here. Keep it nice and tight while you're pushing the tabs down. In fact, if you want, rather than going on the tray, you can get it on the edge of the table, press it right down so there's no gap along the bottom of the bonnet side there, and then just squeeze the pliers on the tabs. Now we can check whether the bonnet top fits. So I've fitted 4 2mm screws, each with a nut on the inside, and it should just drop straight onto the top of the bonnet through these little slots here. So that's looking pretty good for a fit. Next we'll be fitting the radiator, the air tank and the toolbox and the cab side detailing. So we'll move on to that in a sec.